And welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment of our program brought to you by Safety Systems. SafeTSystems.com is where you can go to learn more about them. They do a tremendous job in terms of audio-video needs, in terms of security systems for your home, keeping your home, your property, your family safe. But let me tell you also, that whole audio-video thing, they are great with it. Safety Systems. Give VFL J.J. Surlis a call this week. All right, rejoined by Bob Hodge. This time I'm going to let you talk. Mike Strange, Josh Ward, Mark Pankratz. And I just want to make this very clear at the top of this segment. We are going to start talking about some of the plaintiff's accusations in a minute. And if that seems, which ones seem legitimate, which ones do not. When UT's counsel files their documents in a couple of weeks, we'll go through their responses in this very same fair manner. But let's start with some quickies here. We'll go over to Chuck Cavaleris, who's the chairman of the YP board today, the Safety Systems Big Board. We got 10 things there. I don't know that we'll get through all of them, but before we get into the accusations, I just want to know from a legal standpoint and your gut feeling, was there any danger? Should it have been concerned to Tennessee to roll Dave Hart out there and let him have his press conference? Anyway.
I don't think not at all. No. I mean, he is the CEO of your athletic department. I think you almost had to roll him out there and let him say something. And after didn't see it live, have gone back and seen tidbits here and there, sort of like watching the players' highlight tapes. I probably saw the best of it. I think he did a fantastic job with it.
I thought it was his shining moment, personally. I thought that was he did terrible situations, lose, but he lost it by as little as you can lose it. I thought he did a good job.
And legally, I would always be concerned anytime someone's speaking publicly and they're open to questions. But in that case, I thought he handled it well.
I thought he did a great job. Ultimately, it doesn't help your lawsuit, right. I don't think, but it maybe makes people feel better now.
Didn't hurt anything.
Yeah.
And his quotes went national. I think that helped. You guys are good with it?
When you're the fourth line of communication, there's always concern because when it goes from player to coach to administration, oftentimes there's something lost in translation there, and if he's got to go before, that's the worry for me from a legality standpoint.
Chuck, I think we're all good with it. Were you good with it? And if so, give us a big check over there.
I think you needed to have that. And too many times we've seen UT, I think, do the opposite of what you think makes the most sense from a public relations standpoint. I think it gets a big check, yes.
Just add one other thing to it. Should have been first.
Okay, now the next question, the 16 coach press conference. Was that a good idea, or did you have concerns with that? Bob, I'm guessing your answer is?
I don't think I would have done the 16 coach press conference, period. I don't know if it was a net positive or negative, but I would not have done the 16 coach press conference.
I think it could have gone worse. My reason, when you give 16 people a microphone off the cuff for an hour with the attorneys for the plaintiffs listening, there's a lot that could go wrong there. Not to mention the fact it didn't help that you sent mixed messages. People thought they were showing up for a press conference on sexual assault. Instead, it was on sexism within the athletic department that no one outside of Knoxville cares about.
The timing was terrible because of the conversation, what people really were wondering about with Tennessee right now. The intentions, I think, were good.
Yes.
The timing was bad. I thought that was the biggest issue, and I agree. I would have had Dave Hart speak before these coaches. If they wanted to speak a couple of weeks ago, I would have said, let's hold off. Let's wait a little bit until this part of it dies down.
Yeah, as soon as the lawsuit was filed, I think you say, okay, sorry, change of plans. We can't do this now. Mark, Chuck, very quickly, your thoughts?
I thought it was good. I think it bled on too far. I know everybody's got to have a voice, but I think it would have been just more right to the point, and it would have been just as impactful.
Well, and if you know Dave Hart is going to have his press conference, I don't think you needed to have this saying, this is how well we get along. We all get along. No, I don't think you needed that. I'm going to give it an X.
Okay. I agree. The national press doesn't care about that. I know that people are using that to recruit against the Lady Vols. If they want to have that press conference, it's not for the nation's media. You need to tell that to the Lady Vol fans and the local politicians who are the ones making the claims. It's Lady Vol fans and local politicians. If you don't want it being out there, tell them, stop. It's not ESPN that's beating this drum. All right, next one. The players, a handful of players were allowed to speak with the media, which I thought was red meat for the fan base, makes you feel good. Incredibly, ridiculously risky, I thought. If 16 coaches are dangerous, giving 20-year-olds a microphone to talk off the cuff, very dangerous in my view. Thoughts? Agree or not?
I will go with, and sorry I stepped on you there, Mike. I will go with that's the one that wouldn't have happened in my book under any circumstances. None whatsoever. It turned out okay. but you've got a real chance of it going off the rails. I would not have had that one happen.
Guys?
I think it was a little risky too when you consider this mentality, this we're all in it, us against the world, don't snitch mentality, that something could have gone wrong there.
Yeah, it's a very different PR approach than you usually see, really anywhere, especially colleges and, and major football programs. I wouldn't have done it. I thought the players, though, represented UT well.
I think if it wasn't Dobbs and some of those other guys who have that ability to communicate, and I'm sure they did some education on the front end of how to answer some things, I was more okay with it, but still I want to put the kids out in that position.
Okay. Quickly, Chuck.
You almost want to say this is a time to have one voice or something instead of the risk you took there.
Well,
I agree with you, John.
Exactly. You could have gotten bad press off that. They could have spun a comment. Jalen Reeves-Maben said, we're under attack right now. I was waiting for somebody in the national press to say, oh, you're under attack, not these plaintiffs who've been allegedly sexually assaulted. That could have been turned in a bad, bad way. So, all right, last one very, very quickly on this one. I want to get into the first accusation we're going to talk about. The lawsuit claims, and we got a graphic for this, the lawsuit claims women who brought allegations were retaliated against. It claims officials with the athletics department tried to influence discipline of student athletes accused of sexual assault. And it claims that women felt compelled to leave the university because of a one-sided campus disciplinary process. All right, here's the next part. And aiding the suit is Jenny Wright, the former director of student judicial affairs at Tennessee. That's a pretty high up muckety muck. But she was fired for refusing to cooperate with an investigation into whether or not she had sexual relationships with UT athletes. An outside investigator found no evidence of any such relationship. However, I think it's interesting she hasn't filed a wrongful termination suit against UT. Makes me wonder why. But here's the deal. When you look at this, you could look at this two ways. Do you look at it and say, wow, she has a proven title that doesn't look good on this suit? Or you look at it and say, wow, she was fired, so she's bitter. You could go either way. Chuck, if you're Tennessee, are you concerned by Jenny Wright being a part or no? Can you answer for it?
Oh, yes, I'm very concerned. And I think back to Donnie Tyndall and his situation at Southern Miss. There was a former staff member that was able to give details the NCAA would not have otherwise had. Anytime you have a former staff member, I think you've got to have concerns about what could be disclosed.
Very quickly, guys.
I think the concern is we haven't heard from Cheek or anybody else in administration on the university side to go out in front of the press conference to talk about some of these, because they're the ones, not athletic department, they're the ones that ultimately are handing a lot of these investigations.
Is everybody concerned here? If you're UT, do you look at that? Or do you say, we know the situation, not worried about it?
Because that investigation cleared her, that's what would make me concerned.
Okay.
I'm concerned with the preponderance of the evidence, but I'm not just so
frightened
concerned and frightened.
I'm concerned because she's right there at the crux of this thing. How are the victims treated by the student judicial process? Yeah, concerned.
All right. Very good. We can give an extra on that one. When we come back, more of these accusations that we'll tell you. We'll see what you think, too, and you run through these. Come on back to the Sports Source.